Good morning, everyone. It's morning in here. And then, if, if I can hear my voice. Why I cannot see my share screen? I will just read. Anyway, I'm not perfect in pronunciation and basti ko agad magbasa in all problema na basta mabasa ra nako tanga. This is only for my personal use in the future, but still I'm gonna use this. Signal is very slow. For copyright infringement, I did not own the materials that I'm using on this video, and they belong to its rightful owners. I can hear myself, but it's late. Okay. This is the source that I'm the these are the source that I'm showing. Let review I teacher A and top to let. That's it. One, this governing body of language banned any existing or future debates on language origin in 1866. The answer is Linguistic Society of Paris. In the ancient times, Chinese merchants was able to do business with English speakers in the docks of ports even without using a common language for communication. What variety of language these? In these ancient times, Chinese merchants was able to do business with English speakers in the docks of ports even without using a common language for communication. What variety of language made this possible? The answer is pidgin. 3. This refers to the way of particular person speaks at a specific time as distinct from others. Idiolect. Which of the following is a free morpheme of Which of the following statements is not true about linguistics? The answer is linguistics is developed solely for the understanding and analysis of the international language English. So all are true. Linguistics is the science of language. The major divisions of linguistics include phonetics, grammar, semantics, and pragmatics. Lisa is very active in Twitter and sharing her feelings and opinions about political issues. What function of language is she utilizing in such case? The answer is personal, which is not true about English as a language. A. It is the lingua franca. B. It is the world's most mixed language. It has simple rules of inflection. It has no particular order for words? The answer is, which is not true about English, it has no particular order for words. In what word should the sound P be aspired? Pack is the beginning sound. What is the place of articulation of the H sound? Glottal. What, what is another term for spelling? Orthography. In which word should T be pronounced as fast D? Internet. Which sentence does the word well function as adverb? The teachers are pleased to see that the students are behaving well during the accreditation visit. Okay, that's it. The, this is the source, my second source. The first source is that. So I have just showed it. I just basta nara sa pero meron siya din karon na bre. One, he is the first Asian writer to receive the Nobel Prize. Dili ko mag-pronounce hama o bani o dili basta. Rabindranath Tagore. He is the first Asian writer to receive the Nobel Prize. Rabindranath Tagore. He is considered as the greatest English writer and also known as the Bard of Avon. William Shakespeare, Bard of Avon. This Shakespeare's play is a story of a man whose downfall was caused by overwhelming ambition for power. Macbeth. Overwhelming ambition for power. Macbeth. He is known as the father of horror stories. Edgar Allan Poe. He is known as the father of English essays. Francis Bacon. This Omar Khayyam's work has the theme grasping pleasure while you can. Rubaiyat. This is a short story by Edgar Allan Poe has the theme which is similar to the theme of Poison Tree, The Cask of Amontillado. He is a Filipino writer whose stories and poems depict Filipino-Spanish cultural beliefs and traditions. Nick Joaquin. He is a Filipino writer whose stories and poems depict Filipino-Spanish cultural beliefs and traditions. Nick Joaquin. He was the first Filipino national artist for literature awarded in 1973. Jose Garcia Villa. He is a Filipino migrant whose fiction stories reflect the Filipinos' concept of American culture. Benvenido Santos. He is called a comma poet because he used commas extensively in his works. Jose Garcia Villa. This is a collection of Indian best fables originally written in Sanskrit. Panchatantra, Panchatantra lagi diri. Basta mo na iya. This is the first great work of English literature. Beowulf or Beowulf, basta problema na ninyo. This is the greatest lyric poem in the literature of the world. Psalms of King David. This is a folk song that originated in Pampanga. Atin ko pong sing-sing. He is known as the greatest Indian writer of all time, Kalidasa. He is called the morning star of English literature. Morning nga buntag, dili na goal. Geoffrey Chaucer. He is the first man to replace meat with natural laws, Thales of Miletus. He is a collection. This is a collection of Indian sacred hymns, Red Veda. This is a collection of Indian religious texts. Tayo asa Upa Upanishad or lain po Opa Upanishad. Basta he is regarded as the greatest haiku poet or Matsu Basho. He is recognized as the father of American literature, Washington Irving. He was the first mythical geographer who was recognized due to his vivid descriptions of lands and people encountered by hero Ulysses. Homer. He is a famous composer from Angono Rizal who was given a National Artist Award, Luis San Pedro. This is regarded as the most influential book in the history of English civilization, the King James Bible. This is a popular Philippine secular poetry in octosyllabic quatrains, corrido. Octosyllabic quatrains, corrido. It is medieval German epic Nibelung Nibelungit lagi to siya. Basta mo na siya. Nibelungenlied basta mo na siya. Kapoy ba? Mura ako nabasa Nibelungit. Basta mo to siya. He is known as the master of local color because of his Pickwick Papers. Charles Dickens. It is a story of a man's effort to save his king from a monster, Beowulf. It is Jonathan Swift's satire on human folly and stupidity, Gulliver's Travel. Sino tanaw sa he is a Philippine National Artist Awardee for Literature who used free verse and espoused the dictum art for art's sake, Jose Garcia Villa, art for art's sake, Jose Garcia Villa. This is known as the Epic of Ifugao Hudhud. Epic of Ifugao Hudhud. These poems are often erotic and espouse carpe diem or seize the day cavalier's poems. Cavalier poems. This is known to be the very first successful short story in English written in 1925 by Paz Marquez Benitez, Dead Stars. She wrote the most exquisite love poems of her time in sonnets from the Portuguese Elizabeth Barrett Browning. This is a very long poem about a pilgrimage from London to Canterbury Tales. He is a Japanese poet who won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1968. Yasunari Kawabata, Japanese poet whom who won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1968. Yasunari Kawabata. This Indian epic, which is made up of almost 100,000 couplets divided into 18 sections, is considered as the longest Maratha. This was the era of knights, chivalry and castles in English literature, Middle Ages. This is known as the Epic of Visayas Maragtas. Epic of Epic of Visayas Maragtas. This is a popular Philippine secular poetry in dodecasyllabic quatrains. Dodecasyllabic quatrains. Awit. He is popularly known as Husing Sisio Jose de la Cruz. Husing Sisio Jose de la Cruz. This period of English literature literary means rebirth in French. The answer is Renaissance. This is the first novel in English written by Zoilo Galang, a Filipino writer in 1921, Child of Sorrow. It is considered as the national epic of England. Beowulf. He is known as the father of English tragedy. Christopher Marlowe, from which Shakespeare's play are these lines taken: good night. Parting is such a sweet sorrow that I shall say good night till it be morrow. Romeo and Juliet. He is the first black Nigerian writer to be awarded the Nobel Saan na pagbasa? Nobel Prize for Literature in 1986, Wole or Wole Soyinka. This is an epic of Ilocanos, Biag ni Lamang, Epic of Ilocanos, Biag ni Lamang. What is Esteban Avellana's 1947 novel that captured the moving tale of the cruelty and bravery of the warriors without saying without seeing the dawn, without seeing the dawn, bravery of the warriors. Ano siya? Okay. Naningit-ngit. Thank you so much for watching. May God bless you always. Future LPTs. Lain siya. Edit na ko. Dili man ni mao. Lain siya tayo. Narito Stop sana ako sharing. But, this is 68. Tanawa ang final na ko na output kayak. Design. Ibalik na ko tong gusto na ko na design. It's gone already. Dili ko na siya mo. Ano siya variants. Hindi na ako siya mabalik. Ay, dili yapon. Try na ako balik. Lang ayan kayo kung mag pwede naman ko i-isip. Kani. Nara kaya balik hug share kay nice kay siya. Hindi siya sa kaya. Tara. Share screen. Yung lola. Window lang to kay makita ang dili maayo. Share lang. O kana. Thank you so much for watching. May God bless you all. Always future LPTs by God's grace. God bless always sa mga mag-take. Karong March 19, 2023. Pressure color sa kang sinina. And mangita sa kuglain ng stadyanan. Mingaw, magod karon. Mga anak, dapat siya. Nakaipalit diri nga reviewer. Ay, ano ito akong ipalit? Palit-palit pa nun yun. Murag ibasa na. Ano ito akong ipalit? Letter R siya mo. Hindi lagi makita. Ay, akong i-share kay Glenn ako agikan. Linguistics ni siya. Dili ko mapatay sa tag-iyan. Dali-dali mo lang. One, the following statements are true except A. Vowel sounds add timbre to the sound. B. Vowel sounds may be categorized by the vibration they make. C. Consonants act as onsets of the word. D. Vowels can be categorized based on their tenses. The answer is vowel sounds may be categorized by the vibration they make. So, kana silang tanan kay tinuod na except ana. To which word could be partnered with sail to establish a minimal pair in central middle position. A. Sail, B. Sail, C. Cell, D. Shall. The answer is cell. Which of the following has an allophone? The answer is kids and sky. Which of these could be added to the boy to form a sentence? Dance. Which of these phrases has intensifier? Across extremely disgusting. Hinay akong signal pero na wala-wala man. In English morphemes, S is usually added to create the plural form of the word. Wala wala gid akong signal kay nagmadungog na dead. In English, morphemes s is usually added to create the plural form of the word. What explains the case of child becoming children? The answer is lexical conditioning. What is the process present in pronouncing psyche? Apheresis. The word foot, referring to the base of the mountain, shares a similar sense with with a human's foot. This is a case of polysemy. The word foot, referring to the base of the mountain, shares a similar sense with a human's foot. This is a case of polysemy, which pertains to the case of the word fly, which may mean an insect or something that is found on the opening of the scratch of the pants. Ambiguity. Which among these is considered homonymous? Bark tree and bark of a dog. Person A, your brother wants to see me. Person B, you better be ready to be swooned, which could be an implicator of this conversation. The answer is person B's brother wants to date person A. The following are true about implicator except it should be part of the utterance. In terms of alcohol, I am sober now, which could be a presupposition based on the sentence. The answer is I used to drink alcohol. Under phonological conditioning, how does the end of the word catch sound with when pluralized? Pluralized is catches. Emoticon is created using which word formation process? Blending. Scavenge is a word created from scavenger, which word creation process is manifested? Back formation. Among the types of dogs, the Chihuahua is Larry's ideal type. In terms of reference, where does the Chihuahua fall? Prototype. During the conference, everyone got confused when the speaker said the exit is to your right. Which type of expression caused this? Diasis, which is true of English sentence structure. All of the above. They are arranged from left to right. Verbs are pivotal to create a sentence. Labels can recur in a sentence, which is an example of complementation. Sings the song. Why is the cold hat considered a gradable antonym? There are several levels in between and even beyond the attributes, which explains the relationship among apple, orange, and banana. They are hy- hyponyms of fruit, which is true of semantics. It is dependent on the word meaning. Okay, that ends the semantics. Semantics. Mangita sa kukuan. Ano to kung pinalit na ano yo should iya haday. Ada to. Kailangan pa na ako. Ay, katong downloaded. Ano ko pinalit na kuan? Reviewer. It's gone. Gaya-ya kayong lola. Asa di ay. Pangita na ako balik sa email. Mawa. Dugay kay makalagin. Putan ang sugag sa akin ito may email address. Ah, nalay live email account. Di ko ganahan ng aning ask magamit pre ba? Or wala lang ko'y pasensya. Basta aking pasensya sa babaeng katulad mo. Kaya assign into my email address. Kaya wala na akong love sa iyo. Ito kaya ulit. Hindi lang ko kapalo. Email man, Gmail. Magbasa na lang guro ko ba naman ko hard copy. Tiri ka lang gahi ko kay siya nga copy kay hard man. Wala pa man na highlight. Ano daw papel? Kaya na hiwi. Major shift na lang magbasa ko. Language variation. Basta di ko hawad mag-pronounce. Problema na ninyong para sa akong sarili. paminaw. The study of those features that differ systematically as we compare different groups of speakers are or the same speaker in different situations mo na ang language variation. Language universals, those categories and rules that all human languages, past and present, have in common. Dialect, variety of a language which is used in a certain geographical area. A systematic variety of a language is specific to a particular group. Two dialects may differ in vocabulary, pronunciation, and even morphology and syntax. Isogloss, the line marking the limit of the distribution of a linguistic feature on a map, a line that demarcates the area in which some phonological, lexical, morphological, or syntactic feature can be found. Sociolect, a variety of language used by people in the same sociocultural position. A two, a regional variety that gains social political priority over the others. Three, used for education, scholarship, and state administration all over the country. Four, the standard variety is no longer restricted to the geographical area where it was originally used, but is isolated with people who are educated, who are at the top of the sociocultural scale, no matter where they live. Pidgin, the simplified version of a language containing the features of one or more languages, used for occasional communication between people with no common language. 2. A linguistic system used when speakers of different language come into contact through trade or colonization. Ito ganina sa question. Creole. When a pidgin becomes the native language of a community, it is called a creole, a more complex system, and becomes the native language of a later generation. Slang. A very informal language with a vocabulary composed typically of coinages and arbitrarily changed words such as the ones often created by young speakers. Register, conditioned by the subject matter and connection with which the language is being used. Each field of interest, activity, occupation is associated with a special vocabulary, and it is mainly these vocabulary differences that underlie the different registers. Jargon, when the register of a field is full of technical terms which those who have received no training in that field cannot understand. Idiolect, the total of all varieties of a language that a person knows is the person's idiolect, the amount of a language that an individual possesses. Code switching, the ability to change from one variant to another. Diba? Nabasa ng buko. Ibalhin niya. Ay, ako sa charger. Kalobat na siya tayo. Ito naman karaming party ni mong tulog. Ang study body na tulog. Just kasi. Cause me og ang kiling. Si Mimi. Si Mimi. Tulog ka? Good night. Ay, kanaog ra. Gastos kay pasakaw ng ilang kanaogon. Diglossia, two distinct varieties of a language co-occur in a speech community, one with a high social prestige and one with a low social prestige. Bilingualism, knowledge of two languages. Lain na maghinay basa ko yun. Kita na akong bangs. Language acquisition, pre-linguistic stages, three stages of vocal vocal production. One, crying stage, birth, two, 2 months. Includes other reflexive sounds or involuntary sounds such as burping, coughing, sighing, and sneezing. The cooing stage, muna siyang ikaduha nga stage, the cooing stage, 2 to 5 months, characterized primarily by vowel-like sounds. Laughter also begins during this stage. At around 4 months. Hiwi, kay ko 4 months. Dapat mga na, so, lagi na ay maka, uba man ay dagway. Uba daan. 3. The babbling stage, characterized by syllable-like consonant vowel sounds. Ano ko libroan ba? Dito. Ay, di na ako mangita. Next time na. Di na shoot ka na. Wala problema na na. Tugnaw eh. Ana siya kay gwapa. Yay! Si Hana. Okay, basta tagbalik. Types of babbling. Reduplicative or syllabic babbling. Nalok man tanong. Diyos ko, bumiliw. Ba't ang balay ko? Matulog na siguro ko. Mananaran. Types of babbling, reduplicative or syllabic babbling, consists of repetition of a syllable. Example, ba, ba. Variegated babbling, characterized by strings that vary a constant or vowel. Example, baga, baga. Jargon babbling, characterized by rhapsodic or intonational patterns reminiscent of adult speech. Proto-words, a form that does not correspond to an adult form but that is used consistently by a particular child for a particular referent or situation. Holoprastic stage, babies begin to produce one or two recognizable words, producing single word sentences. The one word utterance may be used in contexts which would account to different grammatical construction in the adult language. Telegraphic stage. Ay, may stress ako. Ayan ka. Asan ako? Telegraphic stage, no function words and grammatical morphemes. Most are content words or open class. Closed class are somehow absent. Example, baby, kiss. Theoretical approaches for first language acquisition, nativism, mentalism, Noam Chomsky. 1. Human beings are born with all the knowledge that they will eventually have as adults. 2. Focuses on the fact that much of human behavior is biologically determined. 3. Human beings, by virtue of their characteristic genetic structure, are born in an initial mental state in which general properties of human language are already specified. Human beings are born with part of their grammar already in place. Okay. The environment the environment the environment makes only a basic contribution, that is the availability of people who speak to the child. Therefore, the child's biological endowment, or LAD, language acquisition device, will do the rest. A LAD, or a language acquisition device, an imaginary black box existing somewhere in the brain, contains the principles which are universal to all human languages. Critical Period Hypothesis, or CPH. Lenberg, there is a specific and limited time period for the lad to work successfully. The best evidence for the CPH is that virtually every child learns language on a similar schedule in spite of different environments. Empiricism, Behaviorism by V.F. Skinner. A child is born with no linguistic knowledge, and that all linguistic ability is somehow learned throughout life by making associations among events in the environment. Focuses on the fact that much of human behavior is culturally determined. Much of our behavior is a function of specific environmental factors. Skinner proposed that language is learned essentially through vaguely defined powers of association, and that human linguistic communication is a stimulus response chain. This view holds that language is not necessarily a human specific capacity. Language learning is the is the result of imitation, word for word repetition, practice, repetitive manipulation of form, feedback, and success, positive reinforcement, habit formation. Tanga ano. Uh, Nativism versus empiricism. Ang nativism kay mentalism siya, ang empiricism kay behaviorism. Ang nativism kay kang Chomsky, ang empiricism kang Skinner. Mind has more innate structure sa nativism, while empiricism, mind has less innate structure. Language acquisition is primarily biologically determined sa nativism. Sa empiricism, language acquisition is primarily culture determined. Tugnaw ay. Language is acquired. Language is acquired. Language is learned. Language is acquired. Language is learned. Ay, may states ako sa konti ilbi mo nagyak na good kay siya, promise. Tugnaw man, Ming. Sorry, Ming. Si Ana akong inspiration lang. Okay, happy kay siya. Igagaw dyan dahil may gamay may mata. Huwag mo smile. Smile rapot. Anagay ko. Language is acquired, language is learned. Interactionism. This position views that language develops as a result of the interplay between the innate learning ability of children and the environment in which they develop. 2. Piaget. Language is dependent. Piaget. Language is dependent upon and springs from cognitive development. That is, children's cognitive development determines their language development. 3. He argued that the, the developing cognitive understanding is built on interaction between the child and the things which can be observed, touched, and manipulated. Okay, katapulan ko. Siyempre, magsandig. Uh, Layo lagi ko kung unlan din lalaki. Naulaw ko sa unlan. Ano siya, kahit tapulan man, di ba? Ay, kahit pa sa eloan. Okay, basa ang balik. Ay, sorry, Ming, naipit kaming. Ano ko ba siya sa laptop? Teka, kaloko siya mga ay, napanikol. Ay, baby, mananday man ka. Ay, ay, ay. Balik tagbasa. Second language acquisition. The study of how native speakers of one language acquire another language. Major theories of second language acquisition. The acculturation model. The process of becoming... Ay, Miss Nicole, kaluhag matulog. Ay, baby. Diyos ko. Ay, yarin siya. Second language acquisition. The study of how native speakers of one language acquire another language. Major theories of second language acquisition. The acculturation model. Diba pinakilid? The process of becoming adapted to a new culture, acculturation model. Two, the nativization model, nativization. Consists of assimilation, wherein the learner makes the input conform to his own internalized view of what constitutes the L2 or saan yung L2? Second language. Denativization involves accommodation wherein the learner adjusts his internalized system to make it fit with the input. 4. The accommodation model. It is how the in-group defines itself in relation to the out-group that is important for second language acquisition. Hinalagay ko tingin. Banaduyan na higta. Anak ko. For the accommodation model, it is how the in-group defines itself in relation to the out-group that is important for second language acquisition. Nibalik ko. 5. The discourse theory. Language development should be considered in terms of how the learner discovers the meaning potential of language by participating in communication. 6. The monitor model. The acquisition learning hypothesis. Krashen has concluded that there are two systems of language acquisition that are independent but related. Krashen argues that acquisition is a more important process of constructing the system of a language than learning because fluency in learning L2 performance is due to what we have acquired, not what we have learned. The monitor hypothesis ta sa paano eh. Lain man maging ano eh, may buot. Tarong may. Tugnaw ko yun. Patay ilis forever. The monitor hypothesis. The acquired system acts to initiate the speaker's utterances and is responsible for spontaneous language use. The learned system acts as a monitor, making minor changes and polishing what the acquired system has produced. Conditions of monitor use: sufficient time, focus on form and correctness, must know the rules. Three types of monitor users: overusers are performers who feel they must know the rule for everything and do not entirely trust their feel for grammatically in the second language. They use the monitor all the time. Muna ang overusers. Underusers, they appear to be entirely dependent on what they can pick up the second language. These are learners who have not learned or who prefer not to use their conscious knowledge. Optimal users are the performers who use learners as a real supplement for acquisition monitoring when it does not get in the way of communication. Acquisition. The natural order hypothesis, acquisition and learning. Acquisition, the product of a subconscious process very similar to the process children undergo when they acquire their first language. Learning, the product of formal instruction. Hayuga ako. And it comprises ang learning the product of formal instruction and it comprises a conscious process which results in conscious knowledge about the language. Balik ko na kang acquisition, the product, okay. The acquisition of grammatical structures follow a natural order which is predictable. The order of acquisition remains the same regardless of explicit instruction. The input hypothesis, the learner improves the progresses. Alo- Input hypothesis, the learner improves and progresses along the natural order when he or she receives second language input. Ang L2 kay second language. What is one step beyond his or her? Sorry mga maestro sa una. Bastos kay di naka inumdum. Bugo lang jud her. Bugo ra jud ko. Basta, the learner improves ang input hypothesis. Ay, ayaw pa kami. Wala na tayo headset na. Supo. Balik ko na akong input hypothesis. The learner improves and progresses along the natural order when he or she receives second language input and it is one step beyond his or her current stage of competence. The affective filter hypothesis. Krashen claims that learners with high motivation, self-confidence, a good self-image, and a low level of anxiety are better equipped for success in second language acquisition. Teaching listening. Kanang maminaw ka. Bitaw. The goal of teaching listening produces students who can use listening strategies to maximize their comprehension or oral input, identify relevant and non-relevant information, and tolerate less than word-by-word comprehension. Muna akong ibuhat. Teaching listening. Paminawon ako ni akong record. Yee. The nature of listening. It takes up as much as 50% of our everyday communication time. 2. Main channel of classroom instruction. 3. The most used language skill. Ironically neglected most of the time. Muna siya ang 4. Different views of listening in language teaching. 1. Listening as skill. Listening comprehension skills or enabling skills. Listening for detail. Listening for specific information. Listening for just listening to get only the main and most important ideas. Drawing inferences. Listening to fill in gaps and draw conclusions from message uttered. Listening selectively, listening only to specific parts of the input, making predictions, listening to create anticipations before and while listening. Bottom up listening. Ang ang different views of listening in language teaching kay listening as a skill, bottom up listening na. Bottom up listening in this process, teaching primarily focuses on sounds that are used to build up units of information such as words, phrases, clauses, and sentences. It is assumed that by understanding these small units, the oral input will eventually be understood. Hence, comprehension is built for bottom sounds to up understanding. 3. Top-down processing. This process may be referred to as the opposite of bottom up. In top down processing, the assumption is that learners must learn how to apply their schema or background knowledge to facilitate comprehension. It is generally believed now that processing of information is neither top down nor bottom up alone. It is now common knowledge that processing occurs at the same time in what is known as parallel processing by Async, basta AYSENCK 1993. In some instances, one type of processing might take precedence over the other, depending on the amount of practice of individual an individual has on a specific task. Factor that katugon ako. Manon sa ako ay isa na oras tama na. Factors that influence learners' listening. One, knowledge of the language system. A learner would find difficulties to ease when listening if he or she is aware of linguistic system of the language being used. Two, background knowledge. A learner would find it easy for difficult to understand messages depending on how much schema does he or she have in relation to the message. 3. Knowledge of the situation and context. A learner would find it easy or difficult to understand messages if he or she knows the situation and or issues involved for creating such messages. What makes listening difficult? The 8 characteristics of spoken language that highly influence the processing of speech and can make the listening process difficult. You mean by Brown 1994. Tama na siya. 1. Clustering. 2. Redundancy. 3. Reduced forms. 4. Performance variables. 5. Colloquial language. 6. Rate delivery. Itugnaw na kayo og taman. 7. Stress, rhythm, and intonation. 8. Interaction. Types of listening: appreciative, informative, critical, therapeutic. Types of classroom listening performances. Ugma na ni, goodbye, good night, good morning, whatever you are watching in this video. Goodbye. Natog na yung lola. Bye. Good luck sa mga maglet. God bless always, makapasar mo tanan. Ayaw lagi min. Ayaw, ito pa ba? Ito pa ba? Ano, itong headset na, itong headset.